Morning, everybody. I'm really thrilled to be here, but I honestly have to admit I'm feeling a sense of imposter syndrome. When you are following somebody who literally wrote the book, How Not to Suck at Presentations, it makes me wish I read that book, but I did not. And Dr. Laura Carapella, who's amazing, I heard her speak first last year, and she's actually done some work with some of our teams at Ronette Health and has added tremendous value to us. So imposter syndrome aside, here I am. And when I think about that little sense of, do I belong up here? That little seed of doubt, that's exactly why I'm here. And that's exactly why we're all here. Whether we're stepping into our first leadership role, being promoted into another leadership role, or helping any one of our team members feel empowered, inspired, valued, this is what we have to do as women leaders. So we're going to talk today about how we can break barriers, push back our fears, and step fully into the leaders that we are meant to be. A little bit about our agenda today. I'm going to talk to you for a few minutes about my personal journey. Then we're going to talk and dig into the research and statistics on the current state of women in leadership. We're going to talk from there on making work and life work for you. I really don't love the term work-life balance. I've heard it called work-life assimilation, work-life synchronicity, whatever resonates for you. And then we're going to talk about advocacy, but not advocacy in the sense of advocating for others, rather advocating for ourselves, because it really, truly does start with us. And then finally, probably something that's the most important to me is empowering others, and how female leaders are in the unique position to be able to do that. So let's get started. This is my tribe. It is very safe to say that leadership is not built in boardrooms. It's not built in corner offices. It's deeply rooted in the people who inspired us along the way, in the resilience, the courage, the role models, and the examples that those women before us or currently with us trace the path for us. My leadership story is deeply rooted in really four women: my grandmother, my mother, my now adult daughter, and even Laura Ingalls Wilder, who read Little House on the Prairie, who watched the Little House on the Prairie series with Melissa Gilbert and Michael Landon. It's still on TV. I watch the reruns repeatedly. I'm a direct descendant of Laura Ingalls Wilder. And I started reading her books before I truly had an appreciation of how they impacted me. If you remember the stories that touched your heart, or Little House in the Big Woods, you know that the common woven thread through all of those stories, all of those tales, was family, resilience, tremendous resilience. They nearly starved to death. Community, advocacy, and kindness. And when we heard Dr. Carapella talk about kindness as a form of perfectionism, I've got some thoughts on that. It's absolutely true. But kindness truly is something that I learned throughout all of the strong women in my life. My grandmother, I'm talking about my paternal grandmother, Evelyn Ingalls was her name, and she was tough, my grandmother. We never had a summer vacation at all because we were unpaid labor in her garden. My brothers and I thought this garden extended for at least 5 acres. And honestly, it extended too, because as adults, we measured it out. If we weren't at her house by 8 o'clock every summer day, she was calling the phone and telling my mom, "Get those lazy kids down here." And so we had to plant the garden. We had to weed. We had to pick the harvest. My brothers and I learned how to make pickles, how to make homemade spaghetti sauce and freeze them, how to can, freeze, dry freeze, and preserve all kinds of things. And although we did not really appreciate my grandmother while all our friends were out riding their bikes and going to summer camps, we really enjoyed our fruits and vegetables in the winter when we knew that we had played a hand in making those things. And even though my grandma was tough, she taught us a lot of lessons in pride of ownership and in having a strong work ethic. And next, my mom. We're not going to talk a lot about this today, but there's something called our own personal leadership brand. And that is, what do you want to be known for? What do people, as Dr. Carapalo, respect about you? What is it that when you are at the end of your career, what is the legacy that you wanted to leave behind? My mom helped me develop my personal leadership brand. I had been in nursing management for most of my career, and we'll talk about that. But at age 57, my mom died of a very preventable complication in a hospital, none that I was working in at the time or currently work at. But she died because the nurses would not listen to her, and they would not listen to me. And despite us knowing something was horribly wrong, we couldn't not get anyone to pay attention. And so my personal brand became emblazoned with being known as a fierce champion for patient safety and also for listening to families who are the experts in their loved ones, and also empowering nurses and giving nurses every opportunity to continue to grow, to have a voice at every table where nursing belongs, and also to rise up into leadership positions because you're uniquely qualified to do that. And finally, my daughter. My daughter's in her 30s now. And although I've tried to impart some of my wisdom upon her and to continue our legacy, she humbles me and I learn from her every day. She tells me I'm a dinosaur when I'm trying to talk to the younger generations and something that will resonate with them. She reminds me that women have fought hard for protections like family medical leave, parental leave, things that I had not available or affordable to me, and at the time wore it like a badge of honor. So she keeps me grounded, and she's pretty awesome kid. So this is kind of the trajectory of my career. I want to talk just a little bit about my first role. I was a registered nurse at the Veterans Administration in Syracuse, New York. I had a scholarship with the VA. They helped support me through my bachelor's degree. And in exchange for that, I needed to give them a 3-year commitment. And during that 3 years, I got married and I had my daughter. And at the time, again, no parental leave, no family medical leave. If you had an uncomplicated vaginal delivery, you got 6 weeks. Anyone in that where you got 6 weeks off from? Yes, I'm sorry. You got 6 weeks off from work and were expected to go back. Fully functional and at your best. I had secured a daycare provider, and 2 weeks before I was supposed to go back, so basically a month after having my daughter, she called me and said, I can't make it. I have to have emergency surgery and I won't be able to start until 2 weeks later. So panicking, I called my nurse manager at the time. He was a man, and he said, we have a rule that there are no exceptions. If you don't come back, you will be fired. Which meant a lot of financial consequences for me because I would be breaking my commitment. He said, but you can ask to meet with the chief nurse executive. And so I called to set up a call with him, and he said, no, I want to talk to you in person. So shaking like a leaf, I went into his office. And for 30 minutes, he berated me about maybe I shouldn't have been a mom, if I couldn't uphold my commitment to be a nurse. I should have had a backup plan. I should have. And ultimately, after 30 minutes of berating me, he gave me the 2 weeks. 2 weeks came and went. I was able to go to work. But mark my word, I went home that day and marked the day on my calendar when my 3-year commitment would be up. And the day it was up, probably to the minute, I turned in my 2-week notice. I would have probably still been at the Veterans Administration because I really believed in the mission. I loved caring for veterans. But that one experience taught me a lot I needed to know about what not to do as a leader. After that, I would say I've had progressive roles. And there's one common theme through all of them, and that is I've had people who believed in me. Certainly I worked hard, certainly I studied, certainly I continued to invest in my education and training. But they saw something in me when I didn't even see it in myself. And I'm sure as you're sitting here today, you're thinking of somebody who believed in you, who offered you that chance and inspired you. And I would encourage you to find that person who you can do the same for, because it is such an absolute gift. In 2017, through nearly 40 years in healthcare, so you can tell how old I am, I got to be a chief operating officer. It was never a role that I ever in a million years envisioned. I was really feeling joy, and I use that word purposely, and success in the quality, patient safety, risk space. But I got offered this opportunity, and suddenly, instead of having to use influence and negotiation as a superpower, I had to have a platform where I could set those things, the policies, the procedures, the tools, the resources for our team. And I was working for another organization out further in central New York. And it was a position, I'd been at that hospital for nearly 20 years. And I thought I would retire from there. But then the unexpected happened. I got fired. Our organization had gone through some transformation. We had built a larger network. We had brought in new executive leaders. And although initially there was a wave of leaders who had been let go, I had survived the first cut, so to speak, and actually had been tasked by the CEO with bringing together a multidisciplinary group across our network, which was 7 hospitals, to recraft our values, something I felt very excited and uniquely qualified for. Those values still endure at that organization today, even though I don't. And when I was let go, first of all, it was shocking to me. But secondly, it was shocking to the organization. I had developed a personal relationship. I knew basically every name of nearly 3,000 employees who worked there. And when they got wind that I left, it was a Friday afternoon, they started calling board members. They actually went to the CEO's office. They couldn't connect why this would happen to me. And I'm not saying any of this to be boastful or to have ego involved. I'm saying this because what this experience taught me, among other things, was that I was able to leave a legacy for this organization. And people were resonating with the work that I had done, how I had related, and how I was inculcating what I call a culture of gratitude and a culture of recognition. And so things got so heated at this organization that they ended up having to have a town hall. And people came to it. And they were basically told, our decision's made, we can't talk about the details, but Ronette will not be coming back. I was actually fired for creating a culture of fear and intimidation. And that word got out, not by me. And when people heard that, they talked and reacted in a way that certainly benefited me, but also had their voices be heard. If you look me up on LinkedIn, you're going to see over 100 recommendations. And people had the opportunity to tell their story about connections that I had had, differences that I had made. It certainly was wonderful and humbling to read those, but it also gave people a powerful voice. So the lesson really that I take away from all of that is if you aren't sure you're making a difference and people tell you that you are, please believe them. I would never have ended up working for Ronette Health, an organization that I deeply, deeply love, if that experience had not happened to me. And so I'm grateful every day that it did. I am a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. All right. So I realized that my journey in leadership, it's just that. It's my journey. You all have your stories. Could sit, and I'd love to sit with you and hear yours as well. But in preparing to talk today, I really wanted to go back to the research and think about what we as women face, whether we're working in New York State, Pennsylvania, or anywhere else in the world. So let's take a minute to look at the bigger picture. Numbers don't lie, and the statistics on women in leadership tell a robust story of challenges, stereotypes, and further opportunities. In 2021, the Gallup poll surveyed 27 million workers in the United States and asked questions about their sentiment of male versus female leaders. And so, what they concluded is there are 3 areas where female leaders are actually leading the way. The first is employee engagement. And any of you who follow this space carefully know that employees who are more engaged are more productive. They're more of an owner, I would say. They are not renters. They own their business. They hone their craft. They care deeply about the organization. If you're in healthcare and you have engaged employees, your patient experience ratings are significantly higher. Your quality is better. Errors are reduced. There is better communication. So I've got a leader here who's sitting here, Tiffany Keogh, raise your hand. Tiffany is our Director of Rehab Services. So think physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, hand management, sports medicine. Tiffany's patient experience ratings are in the 99th percentile nationally. 99. I'm going to push you for that one. And guess what? Her employee engagement ratings are at the top of the organization as well. Her team would walk through fire for her, and she displays all the leadership attributes we're going to talk about. Sorry if I embarrassed you. You did not know this was coming. Does this next one surprise you? Female leaders are often held to a higher standard. Who is surprised no one's surprised. So leadership has long been associated with traits that are considered masculine: assertiveness, decisiveness. When women leaders in turn exhibit these same characteristics and traits that make men seem powerful, competent, and successful, we are seen as aggressive. We are seen as bossy. There's another B word which I will not use, but we are seen as that as well. On the other hand, when a female leader is adopting what I prefer, a more collaborative approach, it can be seen as weak. So there is definitely a balance there. The research also shows that there is a double standard that still exists to this day in competence. Studies have shown that women in leadership roles are sometimes expected to be more qualified and have to prove themselves repeatedly as compared to their male counterparts who are just considered competent by default. Further, mistakes made by female leaders often receive disproportionate attention compared to a similar mistake that had been made by a man. This really resonated with me, and I felt this and saw some of this in my experience in my last organization. And finally, there are expectations that we as female leaders have to deal with that men do not. Are we talking about our male leaders, the way they dress? Are we talking about their tone of voice? Are we complaining about the number of times that they are going because they've got a work-life commitment? No. We are kept to a higher standard. I don't have solutions for that, but I think it's really important to understand the sentiment and the data around this. So we're going to do next a little bit of audience participation, and this goes back to the Gallup poll. And so just a show of hands. Show of hands if you would answer yes to this question. Women managers are more understanding when it comes to employee mistakes or slip-ups. Okay. When it comes to making decisions, women managers follow their emotions while men follow logic. Oh, no one raised their hand. Okay. In general, women are more likely to take the blame for failure. Okay, we've got a lot of hands there. Women managers are more likely to admit that they've made a mistake. Okay. And finally, women are better communicators as leaders. Terrific. So here are the answers, and I won't, review all of those. Again, 27 million workers. So 44% are saying, yes, women managers are more likely to be more understanding if we make a mistake. There are also 45% of them are more decided that we're likely to follow emotions. 45% of respondents agreed that women are more likely to take the blame and they're more likely to admit a mistake. 57% said we're better communicators. I want to just touch for a moment on this issue of making a mistake or taking the blame in particular. I have noticed through many decades in healthcare that this is absolutely true. And sometimes we apologize for things that we shouldn't be apologizing for. Do not do that. I've got a couple folks that come to my mind who I'm continually saying, don't apologize. You didn't do anything wrong. That is something that, if I had to give a tip of advice, does make us appear weak because everyone knows it's not your fault. Would you hear your coworker, colleague, male do the same thing? No, absolutely not. So next we're going to talk about what I could call the golden rules. And golden rules in leadership are not just theoretical concepts. They are practical guidelines that have been proven to foster successful relationships and successful leadership. And so I won't be going through all of them on this slide, but I just want to give a couple examples, and I'm sure you have them, and I would encourage you to think of times when you've done this. And the first is leading by example. You know, leading by example is key, because whether you know it or not, people are continually watching you. And I want to share an example that's, if you go to my LinkedIn, you'll see this in somebody's recommendations. I vaguely remembered this, but clearly the person who witnessed this saw it and remembered it in detail. I was in our cafeteria, and it was a very busy day, and the trash bags were completely overflowing, and people were piling trays with trash on top, and it looked like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. And did I go out to the kitchen and demand that one of our food service associates empty it out? No. I emptied them, I took them, I tied the bags off, took them to the trash room, came back, put new bags in. I just did it. I didn't do it because I was thinking that, oh, somebody's going to see me and think I'm great. It needed to be done. That was leading by example, something I barely remembered. I also have our CNO here, who was our former ED director. And in the Ronette Emergency Department, we often have a need for what we call sitters. These are folks that have to be one-on-one with people who are going through an emotional crisis. Well, being a sitter is a really, really hard job. You have to be so you're like an air traffic controller. You have to be totally focused on that person and try to balance engaging them versus keeping them calm. But they need a break. They're only people. You know, they need to go check their phone. They need to have lunch. They need a water break. They need to get up out of a seat. And so every time that I hear we need sitter help today, I certainly can't sit for 12 hours, but I can always give 15 minutes to give a sitter a break. That's leading by example, and I'm sure you have those as well. The next area I'd like to touch on is communication. You know, transparency is key. Telling people I don't know the answer, but when I do, I'll let you know is a perfectly fine answer. More importantly, communication is, in my mind, also nonverbal. How many people do you know come to work if they work in a separate office and keep their door closed all day? Don't do that. Keep your door open. When you close your door, if it's anything but being in meetings, it separates you from others. Be visible. If you are working in a small office, connect with your team every day, multiple times a day. Get to know them. Get to know their names. Get to know the names of their children. Make a connection. That is one of the essential elements of communication, and I believe one of female leaders' superpowers. Showing empathy, and Dr. Carapella talked a little bit about empathy, and I won't go into the science or her years of research around this. I would have loved for somebody to be empathetic when I, at the age of 25, had a newborn and felt completely helpless and had a boss in front of me giving me nothing but a hard time. I hope that would have been different if my chief nurse executive had been a woman, but times were different and I really do not know. Another example from my lived experience is Ronette. At Ronette is we had no policy or provision if a woman had a miscarriage. They could take sick leave if they had it, or unpaid time, or a vacation day. How heartless is that? And so one of the things that we changed was having bereavement days when somebody has a miscarriage. It's awful. And if you have an organization that you believe is reaching out and offering you something in your time of need, that goes so far in being able to develop employee loyalty and employee engagement. Maintaining integrity. I would say that integrity is your most valuable asset, and you should preserve that at all costs. Avoiding even the illusion of impropriety. We cannot play favorites. Many folks, and probably some in this room, have risen up through the same organization, so that perhaps people that you were friends or colleagues were with previously, you may be their supervisor. And there is a difference between being friendly and being friends. So, so important. And I would encourage you to think about that and make purposeful decisions in everything in your work. Recognize and celebrate success. So some of this is really easy. Recognizing somebody's work anniversary. We should know our employees' work anniversary, and we should celebrate that. If somebody's worked at the same organization 1 year, 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, that's a reason to thank them. They have devoted the vast majority of their life in service to your mission, your vision, and your values. My daughter reminds me that people of her generation who, when asked, what is your favorite holiday? It's not Christmas, it's not Thanksgiving, it's their birthday. We have birthday months now. I don't even know what a birthday month is, but I want one. It's amazing. Recognize their birthday. But there are other ways to recognize your team and show that you see them and you care about them. I remember probably within my first year at Ronette, one of our leaders, she had 2 boys, but one of her boys was attending kindergarten. And she was not ashamed to say she was an emotional mess. She was sad, she was excited, she was happy, and all these things. And of course she needed time off that first day of kindergarten to get him on the bus, and time off on the end to get him off the bus. But we knew that this was a big deal for her, not just for her son, not just for her husband. So when she came into work about 10 o'clock that morning, the door to her office had a big sign that we had made. You're looking at the proud mother of a kindergartner. She kept that sign up for all of the kindergarten year. And although she's no longer with our organization, she took that sign with her, and she still has it hanging in her home. So find a way to surprise and delight your people. Show them that you care. Show them that you see them and that you appreciate them. One other tip I'd like to share, and I did not create this, our awesome human resources, and we've got representatives from our HR department, Heather Labar, is every employee, when they come to new orientation, they have an exercise that they have to do. They have to tell us how they like to be recognized. Do they want an email? Would they prefer to be called out in front of their team? Would they like this to be publicized in one of our newsletters? But it goes a little bit deeper than that. It's kind of a, what's your favorite thing? What's your favorite season? Sports team, candy, sweet snack, salty snack, fruit. And the reason they do that is not to be snoopy or nosy about people, but it's so that the manager who ultimately gets this completed form has some kind of an early connection. And it makes a difference. So if somebody loves the Buffalo Bills and they won, well then, that's a point of an intersection in relationship for you. I've got a director of radiology who her favorite candy, God love her, Sour Patch Kids. And so when I know she's having a bad day or she's just completed a project, I'll sneak in her office and put a bag of Sour Patch Kids. If I had given her M&Ms, it wouldn't work. First of all, she's allergic to chocolate. And secondly, it wouldn't have the impact that those things do. And then finally, staying humble. Admit your mistakes. We already know from the research that female leaders tend to admit their mistakes more. That is a superpower. People know when we've made mistakes. We know when we've made mistakes. And to not acknowledge that elephant in the room is a missed opportunity for vulnerability, authenticity, and leadership. And I'm not too proud to say the last time I had to do this was 2 days ago. I had a meeting with one of my leaders, and I was tired. I was provided some information that was a surprise to me, and I didn't think that it should be, and I was a little sharp. I tried to recover and end the meeting well, but it weighed on me, and that's where you need to listen to your leadership gut. If you're continuing to think about something, there's an action that is required. And so yesterday, I knocked on her door, shut the door, sat down, took a deep breath and said, I really owe you an apology. We talked for probably 3 minutes, hugged it out, I'm a big hugger, and all was good, but it wouldn't have been good. And she got tears in her eyes as she thanked me. And she said, I thought I disappointed you. And I said, well, you know what? I know I disappointed you, and I am so sorry. All right, work and life. So on the last slide, we talked about the value of being humble. And for me, that also includes being vulnerable. And I'll be vulnerable with all of you. I am so not the poster child of managing work and managing a life. And Dr. Carapello talked about being successful as a distraction, being a workaholic. Those things have plagued me, and I've had to really recover from that. I was late to my daughter's first pickup on her first day of kindergarten because I could not get out of work. I have said no to family events. I have shortened vacations because I was busy and had to get back, and I was important and I was needed. I missed a holiday concert for my son because there was an event I could not say no to. I cannot tell you what that event was, but I can tell you I did not make that holiday concert. Sure, it was videotaped. You all know it's not the same. Absolutely not the same. So do not be me. Find your balance. One of the most significant challenges faced by women leaders is, in fact, all of the stresses that we're under in terms of making a life, making a family, making a career. It requires a supportive environment. Hopefully you've got support around you. It also requires a lot of resilience. So how do we make work more manageable? And we're going to talk about some of that. First of all, prioritize your tasks. Easier said than done. How many people are list people? And I've got a list that's a mile long. Yeah, we've got a list. And doesn't it feel amazing to cross something off your list? How many of you cross off the easy things to do on your list first? I do. Prioritizing your tasks makes you focus on those things that are truly important and truly urgent. We tend to gravitate to our comfort zone, where we're good at. But as female leaders, it is really important to prioritize. Setting boundaries. We're going to talk a little bit about that as we really dive into learning to say no. Practicing delegation. Going back to the perfectionism talk. How many of us live by the adage, if I want something done right, I need to do it myself? A few of us, yeah. You are here or you are going to be where you're at ultimately in your career because somebody delegated something to you that offered you the opportunity to shine, that offered you the opportunity to have a voice in the seat at the table. Give your people that opportunity as well. Optimizing productivity. There are apps for productivity, lists, planners. You know, people, we are multitasking to the point of exhaustion. But again, I would encourage you to really look at your day, what's filling up your day, and what things you can do to make yourself more efficient. But let's talk about learning to say no. I think that there is a stereotype. Gallup didn't touch upon it. Our female leaders more willing to say yes and less willing to say no. I think that's probably true. But we absolutely have to say no at times. The most important thing is being clear and being direct. Thank you for thinking of me, but I have to decline at this time. There's nothing wrong with that. Your voice may be shaking when you do it, but there truly is nothing wrong with that. Being straightforward helps prevent misunderstanding and sets clear boundaries. Offer an alternative. I can't take this on right now, but maybe Tiffany can. Well, if you're throwing Tiffany under the bus, that's not good. But if Tiffany really is qualified and capable and you know she may have the opportunity and or would love to do that, offer an alternative. Suggesting somebody else still shows that you're supportive and you're committed to whatever this project is. Prioritize your commitments. I have other priorities that need my attention right now. That shows your leader that you are managing your time and your responsibilities. Really, really important. And then there's something I love, which is called the sandwich technique. Think of a sandwich, bread, middle. I appreciate the opportunity, but I have to say no. I hope we can collaborate on something else in the future. You start with the positive, you deliver the no, and you end with the positive. This works in life. I tried it out with my husband. It was awesome. So I would encourage you to do it at work as well. Be honest. I'm currently overcommitted. I don't think I can take anything else on right now. That's okay. Honesty shows integrity. And integrity is your most valuable asset. It's better to say no and focus on a perfect whatever it is you're doing than to take it on and deliver half-baked results all the way around. And then practice. It's not easy for many people to say no. So practice. If you know there's something you have to say no to, whether it's a work event, a family event, an obligation, a project, practice with that. Practice with a trusted friend. And then finally, and this is a really powerful one, and I still don't have it mastered, delay your response. Will you let me think about that? Let me look at what I'm doing, and I'll get back to you. We're so quick to say yes, maybe quick to say no, but take the time to think about it. Your gut reaction, which is saying no, may turn into a yes when you think about your priorities, who you could delegate to, or etc. And if you know right away, heck no, the answer is going to be no. Can I get back to you on this? That will give you a chance to practice your response. All right. Making a life. We're going to talk about just a few of these. Scheduling downtime. Treat your downtime like it's a non-negotiable meeting. Don't be like me. Oh, I can take this call. Oh, I can take this meeting. You might think it's 30 minutes and everything's fine, and maybe your family or your loved ones or your cat or dog think it's fine, but they'll remember. They'll remember that you weren't there when they were playing at the pool or at the beach. So hold and cherish that time. Take care of yourself. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. We know what's important and what we need to do. I do want to talk about unplugging regularly. Unplugging regularly is really important. We know that there are studies, and the research is really out there, on excessive screen time. Stanford University has done the vast majority of the research around that. And even in young children who are on these devices in the grocery store watching these movies, excessive screen time can thin the cerebral cortex of the brain. And that is the part of our brain that is responsible for cognitive functioning and memories. And I don't know about you, but I need all of the cerebral cortex I can get. Further, when this happens, it also, excessive screen time, again, you're not going to be surprised, you probably already know this. It disrupts our circadian rhythms, and it interferes with sleep. And most of us are probably not getting the recommended 8 hours of sleep to begin with, and although you may not realize it, this sleep disruption in itself is really bad for our health and also bad for our brains. And finally, Stanford, and this was brand new news to me, one of the biggest recommendations coming out of this study was that we should not be on our phones for the first hour after waking up. And the reason is, and how many people pick up their phone the second you get out of bed? If it's your phone versus a large screen, in a computer, this proximity from your phone to your face activates your sympathetic nervous system, and that is the part of your brain that is responsible for that fight or flight syndrome. Your heart rate increases, your pulse increases. It produces an anxiety reaction like you're being chased by a lion and trying to get back to the cave before they eat you. And so the recommendation is very strong that we should not be on our phones for the first hour. Now, I'm one of those people, I read that, and I'm like, I will try. I can't commit I do it every day, but the research is compelling. I don't want to begin a stressful day at work with my brain feeling like a lion's trying to eat me, and I'm sure you don't as well. I want to talk a little bit about continuous learning, because leadership is not just a destination, it's a journey of continual growth. And leaders are most effective when we're continuing to expand our learning, expand our growth in whatever way we're doing so. There's an old adage, when you stop growing and stop learning, you start dying. Well, it sounds pretty dramatic to me, and clearly we're growing today because we are all here. So this is an amazing investment in yourself and your growth, and I really hope that you're walking away today with some tools and techniques and ways to help continue your growth journey. All right. So there are several recommendations on here for ways that we can grow. Certainly mentorship. Be a mentor, become a mentor. Be the person that was the person to you as you were moving forward. The second one is pursue cross-disciplinary learning. I have a friend who left one job and decided to take several months before her next one. And instead of going on a cross-country trip or traveling to Europe, which I also think she did, she decided to take a certification course in artificial intelligence, something she had never done, something she thought she was maybe a little interested. She said every day after class her brain hurt, and that's how she knew it was good for her. So I would encourage you to find ways that you can continue to grow and to learn. Engage with thought leaders in literature. And I want to share one quick story about that. A lot of hands went up when Dr. Carapella talked about who follows Brené Brown. If she resonates with you, digest her podcasts, her books, her lectures, her workshops, whatever it is. For me, that person actually is a man, and his name is Chris Van Gorder. He's the CEO of Scripps Healthcare in San Diego, California. I first saw him at a patient safety conference because that's where my passion and my leadership brand was for so long. He was a California highway patrolman who actually was responding to a domestic violence incident and was nearly killed in the line of duty. And he reinvented his career and became a director of safety at one of the Scripps hospitals. And one evening, they had a lot of call-ins, so he was leading by example, and he was on duty in the parking garage. And the CEO of Scripps and all the other, as he called them, muckety-mucks, VPs, people in business suits, walked by him, And as he said goodnight, he knew who they were. No one spoke. No one said anything. And he said, you know what? I can do a better job than these jerks. And so he went back to school. He ended up getting multiple degrees, reinvented his career, and for many years has been the CEO of Scripps, which is, oh, by the way, repeatedly one of Fortune top 100 best places to work in the United States. That is the culture that, because of his own personal experience, that is his brand, employee engagement. And finally, grow. Join women's membership communities. I know there are more than these just in our local area, but these are places where, if you're looking for like-minded women, opportunities to grow, there are many options available for you. Embrace emerging technologies. I loved when Fern was talking about, and then Laura, about people that are afraid of technology. There's a solution for that, and it's at Corning Community College. I was not paid to say this. You can take Excel classes, you can take Canva, you can take public speaking, you can get micro-credentials and certifications in many things. You can get SHRM, becoming a human resources professional, which Heather and her team, I think everyone in the whole department has become certified, which is an incredible accomplishment. Advocacy, starting with you. So leadership is truly about guiding others, but it's also guiding yourself. And if you truly want to step into the leader that you want to become, you have to learn to take care of you first. When you're in the airport, in a flight, and they say, put on your own oxygen, before you put on your kids or loved ones, the same is true with self-advocacy. And that starts with knowing your worth. It's much easier these days. In the old days, people would just kind of talk about, even though HR would say, you shouldn't be talking about what you make. Now there's wage transparency laws, so people can look up any role and see within what the range for that salary, what the range for that position is. You can go online, you can go to PayScale, you can go to, you can go to PayScale, GuideStar if you work for a nonprofit. There are many ways to figure out what your worth is in the market. LinkedIn is another great opportunity for that. Speak up in meetings. Both speakers really touched upon this. Don't be the quiet voice in the room, but be a confident and also be an informed voice. One of the things that I can tell you, even if you haven't learned this yet, everyone will know if you're in a meeting and you haven't prepared. So read the material in advance. Understand what's going to be talked about. If it's a new topic to you, go online. Do a little bit of research. Find natural moments for pause in conversation before you speak up. How many meetings have you been where people are pausing or listening just to get the next word in? You're not listening to listen, you're listening to pitch in. People talking over each other. People not adding anything to the conversation. Don't be that person. And then finally, a pet peeve of mine. During COVID, we were all in Zoom meetings, we were in team meetings. Many of us have continued to do that. For God's sakes, put your camera on. When I came to Ronette, my first safety huddle meeting that Heather was leading, which she does masterfully, by the way, I came on with my bright, shiny, brand new face, and guess what? All I saw was circles, AS, DW, TS, and I asked people, and I had some cover because I was brand new, please put on your cameras so I can see you and see your name and start to make a connection. Took a while, but we've mastered that part of our culture, so cameras on. I'm going to go back one. Negotiation. And we're running a little short on time, so thank you for folks who are joining us. There's still a significant wage gap between women and men earners. Women in leadership do a little bit better than non-leadership. earning 82 cents per every dollar compared to a man. In executive leadership roles, that is a more significant gap. Women earn only 70% of what men are earning. So match their negotiation. Really, really important. Do your research, know your value, keep your resume updated. Not that you're going to be looking for a job, but so you can list your quantifiable, verifiable accomplishments. So at the end of the year, when you are looking at self-evaluation, or you are going to ask for an increase in salary, or a promotion, or a new project, you've got that very, very much in the front and center of your mind. All right, so empowerment. I won't read through all these slides, but I do want to share a story. Does anyone know the woman on the top left? The Arna people do, yeah. Her name's Marty. And so I had the opportunity, I'd seen Marty, she's a great worker in environmental services, but I really had the opportunity during environmental services week to put on a pair of scrubs and work a shift with her, which was exhausting, oh my gosh. But what I could see in her was true leadership material. She was a great communicator. She was also training in UVS. She was patient. She was kind. She followed the rules to a T, even when I kept trying to break them. I had about an hour after we were done, and we just talked about her dreams and her future. And she said, I really would like to apply. There's a manager job, but I don't think I'm ready. And I don't think I was the only one encouraging her. There were many of us rooting for her. And ultimately, she got that job, and she's knocking it out of the park. Providing skill-building opportunities is really, really important. We have leadership Chemung in Chemung County. We are always continually advancing and submitting names of male and female leaders who are stars in the making and have high power potential. We also take the opportunity to recognize those of us who are doing amazing things outside of work. And the lady on the left is Maggie Barnes. And Maggie Barnes is one of my favorite people in this world. She works in our marketing and communications department. She is really the face of Ronette in many, many ways. She is a gifted writer. She continually inspires people with her stories, and you've probably read them, either in Finger Lakes Living or Mountain Home or Country Woman magazine. So when we find articles or find out about awards that Maggie's won, it becomes a celebration for our entire organization. All right, gonna wrap it up in the next minute. I wanna share a story about Liz. Liz was somebody that I worked with in my last organization. She was an administrative assistant in our case management department. She was awesome. A dog with a bone, negotiating with insurance companies, nursing homes, what have you, getting patients and families what she needed. I last saw Liz on a Thursday afternoon when I was rounding, and we talked for a few minutes about what was going on in her grandchildren's lives. But I came into work Monday and Liz had passed away. She had died suddenly of a heart attack in her home and was found a couple days later. 2 weeks after she passed away, her daughter set up time to meet with me. Her daughter also worked at that same hospital, and she brought with her a manila envelope. And that envelope had every card, every letter, every note of gratitude, every email that I had sent her through the 7 years that we worked together. And what she told me was that she found these articles in her hope chest, and amongst her daughter's baby teeth, report cards, christening gowns, the family Bible. And what she said to me and wanted to do was to thank me for making a difference. Her mom never got a lot of affirmation, never grew up in a warm household. So she said the fact that her mom saved those things really was very special. So today, I want to extend an opportunity to all of you at your table. It's a card that we've had made up saying you inspire me. I'm going to give you a challenge before the end of this week. Think of the person who inspires you, send them a card, be very specific about what they've done, what they do to inspire you, and the difference they've made. By doing this, we can continue a cycle of empowerment and support we can truly create a ripple effect that will last for generations of female leaders in front of us and continue and uplift each other all along the way. Thank you for your time today.